We're all one family. There will be issues like that and there's nothing that is sacrosanct or is rigid. So keep watching.
Also in the villa on Monday was the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Yakubu Dogara, who equally engaged President Buhari behind closed doors. He said his visit was nothing unusual.
I said I come for the routine consultation. There's nothing abnormal about the fact that I'm coming to the villa to see the president.
The success or otherwise of the meeting between the president and the leadership of the National Assembly will be seen in the manner in which the federal lawmakers will react to pending executive requests before them.
The contest of power is an integral part of democracy. In Nigeria's Fourth Republic, the People's Democratic Party (PDP) is the oldest and leading political platform in the quest for elective offices. It's a new dawn for PDP. What new thinking shapes politics within the party? What radical changes is PDP seeking to impact in a fresh and reinvigorated spirit in the lives of the citizens? Watch out for details of these and more on People's Politics and Power on AIT, Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Nigerian time.
Well, as I did say, we have our guests in the person of Professor Abubakar Sulaiman, who has been in governance even ever before becoming the Minister of National Planning. It's not an easy thing to have risen to the position of a professor. So once again, Prof, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
You've been in governance. In fact, you were Minister of the Federal. Is it true that this kind of misunderstanding is necessary for democratic development, the executive legislative face-off?
Thank you very much. I think it's not uncommon to have this kind of frictions between the executive and the legislature, especially for a developing country like Nigeria, where you don't have a developed political structures in place, where the political system is at the mercy of certain personality. It happened under Obasanjo regime, for instance. We had it under Yar'Adua to some extent, and we had it under Goodluck to some extent. So it's something normal, and we expected this kind of fundamental frictions under this government, going by the way the government image, the kind of rebellion, the kind of conspiracy that brought the various characters together in hosting the former government or the former president. So you should expect, people from PDP, people from AMPP, of strange bedfellows, the ultimate target is just to get one man out. They don't share anything, in common in terms of ideology. Political party has its own definitions. When it's not political party, it's not political party. You must have common ideology. You must have common aim. You must have common interest. And ultimately, to wrestle power from the current government. So before I talk of wrestling power from the current government, it must be an organized setting. Was APC an organized setting before they came together in the first instance, before the first government? Do they share anything in common in terms of common ideology? Do they have the common aim? Are you telling me that the Saraki's interest is the same thing as Buhari's interest? Are we saying that Buhari and Tinubu, they have common interest? If one is talking about corruption, is this other person, acceding to corruption? If one is talking about rule of law, is that talking about rule of force? They don't share things in common. So, and because of that, therefore, right from the onset, in fact, as a matter of fact, one of my interviews when they took over government was that APC cannot stand the way PDP stood. They can't be in government the way PDP was in government, because APC was not just a political party. So they don't share anything common. They don't have any common interest. It's not born out of the interest of Nigerian masses. It was born out of the need to get someone out of government. And that is why whatever anybody says about the election, I keep on saying one thing, that you can't compare that election that hosted Jonathan with the June 12 election. June 12 election cut across board. You see the Hausa voting for MK Abiola. Yeah. You see the Sekiri voting for MK Abiola. But in the 2015 election, majority of the votes came from Northwest. The South-South, the South-East went for Jonathan. most of whom are Christians. The Muslims from the north voted for Buhari, who are mostly Muslims. So it is a recourse back to pre-June 12 election. It was a reflection of the ascendancy of ethnicity and religiosity in Nigerian politics. So the assemblage of the characters that came to get Jonathan out, that came in to take government in 2015, do not have things in common. And as such, as time goes, you expect this kind of devolution. I mean, this kind of defections. You know, I don't see what Saraki share in common with Buhari, for instance. Saraki, you can call him a Democrat in terms of his respect for the rule of law, to some extent. But in terms of ethics, in terms of sharing certain principles, perhaps he doesn't share anything in common with Buhari, for instance. Same go for Dogara. In any case, you talk of the Dogara, you talk of the Saraki, and majority of the National Assembly members, they were drawn for PDP. They were PDP members. Yeah. Most of them. I stand to be corrected. 80% of the members of National Assembly today were formerly in PDP. So
even the leadership of the two houses,
they are PDP members. Forget about the fact that they joined APC, I mean, on the eve of the election. Yeah. Because a lot of them joined APC just 2014, 2013. I mean, I'm just in PDP for 3-4 years. Saraki has been there for donkey years. Amici has been there for donkey years. So they don't share anything in common. So you expect, I mean, this kind of frictions is what is consuming the country now. So that it's come to us as a surprise. No, for we in PDP, it's not a surprise to us. For intellectuals, for scholars, for students of politics, it's never a surprise. And more of that friction should be expected very soon. And that is why we believe the victims, the casualty of all these crises are Nigerian masses. Yeah, sure. The casualty is good governance. Buhari is there to rule by force. The capability to even rule by rule of law is not there. The Bukolas and others, they have their own interests to promote. So where is the convergence? There's no beating point. Automatically, they must give way, either they like it or not.
Well, if the Nigerian masses are the worst for it, then the Nigerian masses must be missing the credible opposition PDP should have given. Don't you think so?
There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt. PDP is missing in action. You see, why APC was not prepared for governance, PDP was not prepared for position. And that's where we find ourselves. PDP thought, yes, we shall be ruling for the next 60 years. All of a sudden, we had a man that said, look, it's not by force. It's by divine action. If God says, I'm going to leave, let me leave. Jonathan did the coup against his PDP member and the over government. So we didn't expect it. So preparing for opposition is another process, which PDP member never prepared for. So for the last 2 years, we still believe we're in government. Our attitude still suggests we're in government. Hence, the way and manner our governor behave in bringing and imposing some candidates on the party structure. But be that as it may, we still have some individuals in the party that are giving the APC a hell of critique on issues. You may call them individuals. But in terms of having a platform to criticize government of the day, to engage in constructive criticism of government policy, which is, again, is another, aspect of essence of political party, PDP is missing in action. But I want to assure you that within the next few weeks, you shall see changes in the way, because one thing that is now giving us, that is gingering us to now say, look, we have to come together and unite. We have to let go of differences. We have to engage in political resolution of this crisis, is the failure of APC. And Nigerians are now calling that we never thought it's going to be this bad. PDP, please come to our rescue. So we need to accede to their demands, to their calls, to the clamor calls. And that is why we are putting everything in places to ensure the amicable settlement of the crisis, so that we can give them, the kind of opposition Nigeria requires.
Will you say that PDP is actually ready for the major contenders in the crisis? Do you think they are ready for settlement? Yeah, we mentioned names, Makarufi and
you see,
and,
I wouldn't.
Sheriff.
I don't want to be an agent of doom. Yes.
But of boom.
Some do have their own agenda. Some may profess certain interest. Some may profess certain goal they want to achieve, which perhaps is, antithetical to the interest of the party and to our collective interest. But I still want to believe that majority of PDP members, the founding fathers of the party, some of us join us from the academia, who believe that yes, national interest should be above individual interests. We are putting everything in places to ensure that people key into the various resolution mechanisms being put in place by the former president. And I want to believe people are getting tired. Sheriff too is getting tired of the whole thing. Makarufi is ready to let go. A lot of us are saying, let us make sacrifice. Not in the interest of Sulaiman, of Makarufi or Sheriff, but for national interest. So we are getting that signal. People are now listening to Goodluck Jonathan. Yes, perhaps we got to this level because the former president, on account of the various phenom on him from this ruling government, does not have a settled mind, to look into the crisis of the PDP. But I want to assure you now that the man is on ground. The man has bounced back in ensuring that the party that gave him power about 7 years or 8 years ago is restored back to normalcy. In the next 2-3 days, there are going to be stakeholder meetings, convened by the former president, to ensure that every stakeholder, in the crisis, key into the template of resolution. And I want to assure Nigeria that hopefully, yes, the Supreme Court issue is there, but what is important is after Supreme Court, we must still be together. Yes. And that is why political resolution of the crisis is more fundamental to the survival of not only PDP, but to Nigerian democracy.
Yeah. All right. What we are discussing now is PDP's perspective of the executive legislature face-off. Now, let's even leave that executive and legislature and think of two major agencies of the Nigerian government, the anti-corruption body EFCC and the Director of State Services, DSS. We have a message here that two agencies under the presidency antagonize each other, EFCC and DSS. Watchers are already saying there is no synergy, that the president is not in charge. Do you agree with that?
You see, about a year ago, the Senate president alluded to these facts, that this government has been hijacked. It was not hijacked a year ago. This government was not even there before now.
Yes, right. You said this, I think last week.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a difference between government and governance. They are two different things. You can be in government, you can be in power, but not in charge.
And not offer governance.
Buhari government or Buhari as a man is not in charge. For two reasons. You see, the Buharis of 80s, where you have the Diagbans,
as a military man,
an economist, not only a military man, but an economist, a degree holder, it's not the Buhari of today. Because the synergy that time, there was this understanding among the two of them. There was this Buhari was not, Diagbans was not imposed on him. Buhari knew his deficiency in terms of the capability when it comes to governance, in terms of economic, ideas on how to govern the country. He was able to determine who became his second in command. It wasn't the same thing now. And we are talking of Buhari then, of Buhari of 40-something years old. We are talking of Buhari of 70-something years old now. Even in terms of the medical condition, in terms of the health, in terms of age, you can't expect a man in 40 or 40 to do, a man in 70 to do the same thing as a man of 40 years old. So there are two different things. So he needed all the wherewithal, in terms of capabilities, in terms of structure, in terms of recruiting the best, assets
Yes.
to assist him. But right from inception, the recruitment process of Mr. President, in terms of who become the minister, in terms of who become the DSS, in terms of who become the chief of staff, in terms of who held this agency or that, was based on ascription, was based on primordial sentiments. It was not based on achievement. It was not based on merit. So right from onset, he got it wrong. When the president said, I will go for people that gave me 95% votes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
People that gave me 5% votes should not expect me to do the same thing what I'm going to do to. That should be coming from a president. That should be coming from a president of the Federal Republic of this country. This is a federation. This is not unitary. This is not confederacy. We're not running a regional system. So the political recruitment, in terms of the various arms that were put in place to assist Mr. President, lack the capability. They lack the intellect. They lack the wherewithal. They lack the outreach. What is needed to promote this country, to foster change in this country, was not there. That's number one. The age of Mr. President and the challenge he's facing now in terms of his health is another problem. Under Yaradua, we experience the same problem. We don't pray to be sick. We want our president to be healthy. We want him to come back to life healthy, hale and healthy. But again, when sickness comes, sickness has come, it has come. Sickness is not an asset. It's a liability.
It's a liability.
So when you are having this kind of challenge, automatically some other people will be there to do your work for you. So right as we are talking now, Mr. President is not in charge. So when you see this kind of frictions between the DSS, an agency under presidency, and EFCC, another agency, and the two agencies were agencies that deal with cohesion. It's not an agency that deal with rule of law. They are agencies that believe we have to use force to get things done the way it should be done. You expect this kind of altercation, and I don't see it being resolved. One must give way. And what to give way, if I'm to tell you, DSS is an institution. It can't give way to an individual. National Assembly is an institution. It can't give way to an individual. That individual must give way.
Okay. Now, Prof, we go a step further. We have another report, this time from Ekiti State. And after that, we will have just a little time, and you'll be able, we want you to tell us, if your party were to be in government, what would you have done differently? We will get to that. But before we bring you that, let's go to Ekiti State, where Governor Ayodele Fayose has come out to say there are plans to remove him as governor of Ekiti by the former chief executive and minister for solid minerals, Kayode Fayemi.
Sometimes in January, I raised an alarm about the conspiracy of some selfish politicians and enemies of democracy who believes in getting power through the back door after losing election in a popular vote given to me to govern the people of Ekiti State. 3 years after, it is shameful and surprising that the former governor of the state, Kayode Fayemi, knowing fully that he might not be able to secure the ticket of his party in the 2018 election, has resulted to a backdoor approach, name dropping of some leaders of the APC in Abuja that they have concluded plans to go to court to reverse my election. Like I said, you recall I mentioned this in my address last January, but they denied. But it is all over the places that Governor Kayode Fayemi, the former governor of the state, said they have enlisted the support of 3 new appointed justices of the Supreme Court, claiming that they obtained such commitment before the clearance, and that it's all set to file and reverse 3-year-old election by the Supreme Court asking them to reverse themselves. The election was adjudged free and fair. There was no casualty, witnessed by international community, recommended for subsequent elections for 2015. Today, they are making plans to get the Supreme Court to reverse itself. This democracy must not be destroyed by the selfishness of a few, the likes of Governor Kayode Fayemi, who wants to get back to Ekiti Government House through back door. Some of his statements tracked clearly indicates that the plans has reached advanced stage. I want to appeal to well-meaning Nigerians to look at this democracy beyond the gladiators of today, because politicians look forward to the next election, while leaders look forward to the future of their people positively enhanced. I have won election in this state defeating 2 incumbents and in a landslide victory. I defeated Governor Niyi Adebayo in 2003, and I defeated Kayode Fayemi, the former governor, in 2014, about 3 years ago. A state that is preparing for an election next year. An individual is looking for how to have a 3-year-old election reversed in his personal selfish interest. I'm sure we have noble men at the Supreme Court who will not allow their image to be smeared. Nigeria is bigger than all of us. The APC-led federal government cannot win every state and cannot win in all states. In a democracy, majority will have their way, minority will have their say. If they are worried about my stance in national issues, then they should do things rightly. Make do all they promised. They should talk and do. I want to say very clearly that we will not allow this democracy to be destroyed. We will resist every attempt to bastardize it. We are not in a banana republic. Nigeria is for Nigerians and not for a particular political party. Today it is APC. Tomorrow there will be another party in government. I therefore want to call on well-meaning Nigerians to prevail on Governor Kayode Fayemi and his co-travelers, not to endanger democracy. It will be for him, Governor Kayode Fayemi, to clinch APC ticket, not to even talk of winning the election proper. Fayemi has opted to lure our referred Supreme Court into reviewing its own judgment. It was in furtherance of this plot that Fayemi said in an interview, Published in a national daily precisely this day, his preoccupation was to get to the root of what actually transpired in Ekiti on June 21, 2014. Going further to state that it is too early to start talking about 2018 governorship race when there is still an unfinished business. The question to ask, what is the unfinished business? I won fair and square, defeating him in all the 16 local government areas and his hometown, Ishon, and he conceded publicly. And I said to you earlier on that it was not only Fayemi that I defeated Governor Niyi Adebayo with 56,000 votes and above, and I defeated Fayemi 82,000 and above. And you recall that there was a major release by the international community adjudging the election to be free and fair. Not only that, the election was recommended for subsequent elections in 2015. If Governor Fayemi could say on the pages of the newspaper and interviews that there was an unfinished business about the 2014 general election 3 years ago, plus all the name droppings, claiming that he's got 3 justices of the Supreme Court newly appointed on his side, and they're just putting pressure on the new CJN. No politician takes such for granted. No politician. And you recall that I raised this alarm January 2017. They denied. They are up to it again. We all have intelligence reports, and his meetings with his party members, party leaders, clearly confirms what I'm saying. If a former governor like him goes to the pages of newspapers and say it is too early to start talking about 2018 governorship race when there's still unfinished business about the 2014 general election. He said this on the 26th March 2017. Are you expecting us to take that for granted? And I want you to take note of this. 2 justices of the Supreme Court, one of them now under trial, said Governor Fayemi's friend, one of his serving ministers, came to lobby him to reverse my election in his favor. That is in public domain. So are we saying they have stopped lobbying? And if somebody says the new justices of the Supreme Court, they have hand in the appointment, and therefore they will do their bid. As a politician, I'm not supposed to take it lightly. I'm going by statements in the newspaper of March 26, 2017, of a This Day newspapers. We are fully prepared, and the steps we have started. Part of the step is to bring everybody to the court of public opinion and to let Nigerians know that this country must not be bastardized by selfish politicians. The country, the democracy itself, the people is greater than all of us. They are greater than all of us. I want to thank you all for listening to me, for giving me this opportunity to address you as pressmen. It is on record that former Governor Segun Oni attempted to reverse the decision of the then Court of Appeal, which was a last court for elections of governors at the time. The Apex Court told them, the Apex Court told Governor Oni that he doesn't have jurisdiction. I recall the case of the Senator Andy Uba, who approached the Supreme Court to reverse itself. The Supreme Court declined and sanctioned lawyers behind such dirty acts. And it must start with all of us. Fayose remains the governor of Ekiti State, And I want to assure you that come 2018, the APC will suffer a major loss like never before in Ekiti.
We have been to Ekiti State, where Governor Peter Ayodele Fayose has come out to say there are plans to remove him as governor of Ekiti State by the former chief executive, who is now Minister for Solid Minerals, Kayode Fayemi. Peter claimed Kayode Fayemi wants Supreme Court to reverse itself and declare his election as governor of Ekiti State null and void. But Peter the Rock, however, said this country must not be bastardized. And quickly to some other bits now. Plateau State Deputy Speaker Yusuf Gadi has been impeached. He has immediately been replaced by Shehu Saleh. Yusuf Gadi, Plateau State Deputy Speaker, impeached, replaced by Shehu Saleh. And from Ondo State House of Assembly comes this story that the House of Assembly has lifted suspension on the impeached Speaker Jumoke Akindele, and also the former Deputy Speaker Fatai Olotu and former Majority Leader Ifedayo Akinsanyinu. Now, before we went to Ekiti, we were discussing about the executive legislative face-off, where there is no opposition, and even the discordant tunes between EFCC, an agency of the presidency, and another one, DSS. And my guest, Professor Abubakar Sulaiman, has come hard on this development. And I'm asking him now, if your party PDP were to be in government, what would have been the right step to take?
Let me make something very clear to you, that if it were PDP, it wouldn't have been like this. One, because PDP was a party, was a political party.
Like APC?
No, not like APC. It was a political party when you look at its emergence, its evolution, the cooptations, how it came together. The people that formed it, they formed for a purpose. The G34, the G39, how it metamorphosized into a political party. The founding father of the party, they tell back to the Second Republic, to the First Republic. Look at them. Just take a reflection back on the party.
Maybe the team that brought democracy from military.
From the military, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying in terms of evolution. They had a purpose, they had an agenda, they had a goal. And it was a gradual process. And they achieved it through the normal, political process. Secondly, those founding fathers, they were still playing a key role in the governance of the party. In other words, to some extent, there was a preponderance of the party in the affairs of the governance. Yes, that time we had Obasanjo, who was a military, president. But again, you see political party having some, input in what that government did that time. It's only PDP, unlike APC, that has the military wing of the party. And up to today, they're still there. So when issues comes up like this, you see all these structures, call them informal structure, within the political process, coming to give the president some, statements. This is how it should go. It will never get to this extent. Under PDP, you never see this kind of frictions within of the same agency, agency under governments, key agencies, having a bite on one another. It never happened. So if it had to be PDP, it wouldn't have happened in the first instance. And if it happens, it will not get to this level. You will never see it happening in the first instance. So PDP wouldn't have allowed it because we have so many, mechanisms in place to resolve issues amicably within the system.
Thank you very much, Prof. Sulaiman.
It's a pleasure.
We would like to have you very, very soon to be on the program People, Politics and Power. Thank you very much indeed. Professor Abubakar Sulaiman happens to be the former Minister of National Planning, and he has spoken extensively within a short time over the relationship, the strained relationship between the executive and the legislature and more. Well, tomorrow is another day, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We hope you will still join us and have an interesting time on the program People, Politics and Power. I am Odion Bello. Bye for now.